Imagination, imagination, imagination. Hello, everybody. It is Monday, the 3rd of October, 2016, and welcome to my crazy and wild imagination. And what an eventful, exuberant, amazing day, at least for silver bulls, as we've seen the market go up $150 in one day. The second ever $150 up day, the last one in over 4 years' time. Does this mean we're going to be making new nominal highs? Does this mean we'll be breaking it to new levels, maybe over 4,000? It's possible. After all, it's a wild, crazy market. And we are seeing how we have inventories produced like we've never seen before. And some people state because of that, it can't go up much higher. And partially, I'm one of them also. But then you have production at all-time highs too. Of course, the solar panels, they're building them like mad. But are they going to keep building them like mad? Is it going to stop in the next few years? I don't know. You tell me. But we got this upward trend line. Things are looking very, very, very healthy right now. Maybe this market needs some time to consolidate a little bit before it makes the big gains, come back down to the previous resistance of about 1550, or in between the area of around 15, in that ballpark area where I'm moving the orange line now, as a possibility. We already learned back in 2011 that there really isn't no such thing as up too much. And I don't think you can look at this chart here and say, oh, it's got to sell off, or if it goes to 1700 or 1750, it's got to sell off. Maybe a little bit because, well, we're in more usual times again. But for the most part, it's a volatile market. I'm giving the benefit of the doubt towards the buyers within this market. Going over the last half decade, we'll draw a trend line. This has been a wonderful support level. And I think the key resistance, maybe somewhere in here. And that might be where we go up to before we have some sort of pullback. It's tough to say, obviously. If we do make it above this 2,000 level, I will be extremely excited to watch the video where I hear $2,000 silver. Are you kidding me? From Silver Currentist. It'll be exciting to see when that happens. And I really should be stating when, because as we were mentioning, the big resistance was around 1160, 1150. And it got above it, found support. This was telling us that the selling that occurred in 2013 and 2014 was that of a failure. So what happened to get to this point? Well, I know most of you already know. It's been a few years now. But the reason for this dip in here was dumb. And well, it wasn't dumb. I mean, people thought 2012 was going to be the end of the world, December 21st, which was kind of laughable, especially within the economic recovery at that point. Well, the start of the recovery was back then. And people were thinking that the world's going to end. They sold silver. They bought a lot of food. And, well, what a mistake that was. Although it was a mistake to buy in here, and there was a lot of fools that thought that the dollar was actually going to go to nothing. That didn't happen. The dollar was not worth nothing. It's still tough to say how much the value of the dollar is really worth. Of course, if you are still holding those rare old fiat notes, well, what used to be fiat notes that are no longer as fiat, they're losing value against that of silver. That's normal because it was in this period here where we went off of fiat currency, and boy, was that ever awesome that we went off of fiat currency and we went to a resource-based commodity, not a resource-based economy, although there are a few nations now that are starting to get into it, but that'll be for another video. Therefore, we're seeing the moves get really, really big, and going back over the last decade, we can all forget now that there's no such thing as up too much. And when it is up too much, it's a matter of when and not if. The law of infinity says it can take a long time And at some point, the markets will correct themselves in some way. And that's exactly what's happened within a directional upwards bull flag pattern, which is quite strong. The market still needs to correct at some point over the long-term time frame. You really cannot be bullish, and this goes back to 2003 at $4 an ounce when the market was bullish. You can't be bullish for 20 years without much of corrections. So that's why if we make these higher gains, I'd be a little cautious that the market's going to roll over. The only corrections that we have seen on here, the first one was going back to 2008. The duration of this lasted almost a year. And we've seen the market go from 21 down to 8. Yeah, I mean 21, 8. Those were like so low numbers. The next one was after it had like 1,000,000% gain, or maybe 4 or 5,000. And it had a loss of 50% that spanned about a half a year, 5 months. And then the last, of course, the most recent one that spanned a little over a year, seeing a 70% reduction. And 70% reduction, when you consider the large scale move, isn't really all that big. But considering now we no longer have the advantage of seeing markets go higher because of fiat currencies. We don't have fiat anymore. We have stable currencies that are backed by real assets. So inflationary issues, for now at least, are out of the woods. We have an amazing recovery. Not many people whom are poor these days. Africa's kicking ass right now. That's why this world is so amazing. But at the same point, if you're going to be hoarding silver, which I would not recommend, at least not at these prices, be very, very careful. All right, now let's go back in time to April the 14th, 2011. And take this imagination thing all away. This chart in here from or up to around April the 11th or so is real data. And then from the April 11th period, I was using the comparison that I've been doing from 1979 and 1980 to now. So whatever the percentage gains and losses were then, I would add to this. Then when we hit the top in 1980, I reversed the trend to 1985. So everything that happened in here was what happened in 1980 to 1985 on a reverse level. Therefore, say in 1982, silver went down 1%, this would go up about 1%. If silver back then, say, went up 10%, this would go down about 9%. That is how this has been calculated. That's the only way right now I can compare what's going to happen after this whole top happens, because if we continue on the comparison that is, and it doesn't change going into 2011, 2012, and beyond, then the market's going to go down to this area here. And it might come back down to like 30 or 25, but I wouldn't get my hopes up on that. I don't think this will happen even close to this. I'd be very scared if it does. But I also know that in an infinite world, as long as it doesn't break a universal law, well, it's possible. Thank you for watching.